Folks, welcome to our new chapter, that is chapter number 6, first lecture on solid and liquid insulating materials, their classification and properties, and also we'll discuss their breakdown mechanism in detail. The objectives of this chapter are: first, we'll talk about the classification of solid and liquid dielectrics, then the dielectric properties of insulating solids and liquids, then as we have learned in the case of gaseous dielectrics and vacuum, in case of solids and liquids also the pre-breakdown phenomenon, that means the conduction of current before the complete breakdown in these materials. In these materials, the pre-breakdown phenomenon is to some extent more important, but we have learned even in gaseous dielectrics, in extremely non-uniform field, the pre-breakdown phenomenon is nothing but the partial breakdown phenomenon, which determines the breakdown strength. And similarly, in this case also, in solids and liquids, the pre-breakdown phenomenon would determine the breakdown strength. Then one of the pre-breakdown phenomenon in extremely non-uniform fields is the partial breakdown, and the partial breakdown, as I did mention, also takes place in solid and liquid dielectrics. Here we don't call it corona. Here we call it to be partial breakdown or internal breakdown, a local breakdown phenomenon taking place in solids and liquids. Breakdown in solid and liquid, we would go in detail in uniform and weakly non-uniform and extremely non-uniform fields, although the breakdown in these materials is very widely affected by the external factors. For example, the foreign particles and voids, and etc. We'll learn about it. Okay. Yeah. Introduction to this chapter. As you can see, solid and liquid dielectrics are a necessity for supporting the live conductor and augmenting the insulation system in power apparatus. When we say supporting the live conductors, have you ever bothered to know how is the transmission line conductor supported on the grounded poles? It is supported with the help of insulator, or we also call it insulator strings. The pattern of insulators is changing, but you need an insulator which can support mechanically and also provide electrical insulation. Then we have, for example, in liquid dielectrics, very commonly used in transformers, power cables, circuit breakers, oil-filled circuit breakers. Although oil-filled circuit breakers are limited to certain, we can say, lower voltage range, but they are still in use. Oil-filled cables are still in use, but the use is decreasing in case of cables because the solid insulating material has taken over polyethylene, and that is applied wide scale. So, but in the past, a lot of oil and wax-based impregnating materials, non-impregnating, we used to call it MIND, mass impregnated non-draining compound, which is wax-based, and the paper as such was impregnated with such compounds or with oils for the use in power cables. Slowly, that those uses are decreasing. Newer technologies, materials, for example, gaseous materials, solid insulating materials are coming up, which do not need this kind of uh, mm, liquids in transformer. Slowly, the SF6 gas insulation is replacing the liquid dielectrics to a great extent, but there are limitations for that also. Then, for example, in gas insulated system, what we have learned, the live conductor inside the uh, uh, metal clad is supported with the help of solid insulators. So there are so many uses of solid and liquid as support. Then, yeah, bus bars. If you have visited a substation, you would have seen bus bars. They are also supported by solid insulators. These days, three-phase system is brought to every house, and there is a 440-volt bus bar system inside every house, and that bus bar is supported again over the insulators. We have also bushings. You know what is bushing, which provides a passage to the live conductor through grounded container of the transformer. That is also support. Yeah, the functions found by these insulating materials in power system are uh, brought together below, as I have already talked to you. Let's read it once again if I missed anything. Solid dielectric provide the insulating mechanical support, as in the case of bus bars, as in the case of transmission line conductors, as in the case of gas insulated system, live conductors. Uh, Solid dielectric uh, bushings provide the passage to the live conductor through the ground container of transformers. As I was mentioning, wax-based semi-liquid compound and low viscosity oils. These wax-based semi-liquid compounds are known as MIND, mass impregnated non-draining, so that the compound does not drain when the level of laying the cable changes. That is so that it doesn't accumulate at lower levels, and it remains with the paper for the job it has been provided there to impregnate. Low viscosity oils were very popularly used in very high voltage cables, but nowadays the use is not done. Then the other solid materials insulation uh, provided in layers over the conductors in power cables, bushings, capacitors, and also electrical machines. Then, as a filler material, liquid dielectrics provide or augment the insulation between the parts carrying potential and the grounded container. This is a very typical example of power transformers. Power transformers are filled with insulating oils. And as I said, there is a trend to an extent that oil is being replaced by gas because it is easier to handle the gas than the oil, and oils also degenerate over the time. So continuous maintenance requirement is there in case of oils. The liquid, uh, just a minute. Yeah. Yeah. The liquid dielectrics also perform the cooling action. This is a very important job the liquid dielectrics perform because the heat is produced in the windings, I square R loss in the windings. And there, uh, the temperature is the maximum temperature inside an apparatus at the windings. And that the windings are insulated with solid uh, tape insulation in transformers, and that has a limited temperature, maximum temperature. It should not go beyond because it can damage the solid insulation. So the heat must be continuously carried away from the windings to the container and then outside to the atmosphere. And this is another important job the liquid dielectric do. That means they are not only providing insulation, but they are also providing a medium for heat transportation. Then this same is done in power cables also. It was done, but now such power cables are not being produced. We learn what is the material now being produced. Uh, yeah, in case of circuit breakers, oil-filled circuit breakers, we inject the oil when the circuit breaker is opening and the gap is being found between the two conductors. You need to strengthen the dielectric strength of the gap to be able to extinguish the arc, which begins as soon as the two electrodes in the circuit breaker start moving apart. And the dielectric strength of the gap is built with the help of very good insulator oil. So oil is injected in the gap. That is the way it is used for extinguishing the arc formed in circuit breakers. Yeah, another important thing, thin oils are used for filling the voids formed in composite solid dielectrics. In any solid, in some solid dielectrics, especially composite solid dielectrics, they are very small micro voids, we call it to be, and the void formation, uh, the also in case of paper is very porous. And what do you mean by porous? The porosity is filled with normally with air. So that weakens the dielectric properties of the paper. But if you fill the porosity of the paper with the help of oil or wax-based compound, the dielectric strength of the paper improves tremendously. So, so the oils and impregnating compounds are also used for composite solid dielectric uh, void filling, for porosity of paper uh, filling, etc. Yeah, let's classify the solid and liquid insulating materials. In this uh, diagram, you see the solid insulating material and their classification. You can simply classify into two, that is, uh, um, basically two types of material: organic solid material and inorganic solid material. Organic solid materials are uh, polymeric organic materials. For example, thermoplastic polymers and thermoset polymers. What is thermoplastic? The difference between thermoplastic and thermoset polymers. Uh, Thermoplastic polymer, for example, PE, polyethylene, is thermoplastic, but a kind of a vulcanization process. There are a number of processes which are in practice. It can be turned into thermoset polymer, and which is known as XLPE. XL stands for crossed link, that is the chain in the polymer is cross-linked polyethylene. And thermoset materials have got better thermal properties, basically better thermal properties. So they have become very suitable for application in power apparatus. For example, the highest voltage power cables are manufactured today with cross-linked polyethylene in the world. And that's why, as I said, the oil-filled, the wax-based compound-filled high voltage cables have slowly disappeared and XLP cables have taken over. The counterpart of organic solid materials is inorganic solid material. That is, inorganic solid material very widely used in power systems. As you can read there, ceramic insulating materials. Traditionally, even today, the vast majority of insulation provided to the transmission line conductors is with ceramic insulating materials. The porcelain or ceramic. So you have a ceramic insulator string, we call it, used in the highest voltage transmission lines, which has certain disadvantages and which is being taken over by other type of materials. We'll come to it. Then glass as an insulator material. You might have seen some of the transmission line have got a glass as insulator string. The glass insulator strings are not the simple glass because you require high mechanical strength of the glass. So it is actually toughened glass insulating material. The glass has been processed in such a way that it is a toughened glass, maybe reinforced with fiber, which provides it very high mechanical strengths. Then slowly over the time, composite insulating systems have come up very widely. The composite insulating system, a very simple example is nothing but FRP, fiberglass reinforced plastics. FRP, as we put it to be FRP, fiberglass reinforced plastics, very widely used these days for insulators, for tape insulation, for insulation used in machines, insulator used in capacitors, etc. Then furthermore, a lot of research is going on with nanocomposite dielectric materials. People are trying to mix the nanomaterials in the composite insulating system to improve its insulating properties further. A lot of work is going on, and I believe in the future a lot of nano-composite dielectrics would come up. For example, this table, as you see it here, table 1, examples of nano-composite systems under investigations. The polyolefin, for example, basic polymeric material, basic polymer with nanomaterials, uh, like clays, epoxy, phenolics, inorganic oxides, and elastomers with carbon nanotubes, and ethylene vinyl copolymers with graphite. When you mix with these nanomaterials, the properties change, and no major breakthrough has yet come, but it is hoped in the future things will be different. So we can then go back to the uh, go ahead, sorry, go ahead to the classification of liquid dielectrics. Oh, there are very vast number of liquid dielectric materials in use in the uh, electrical industry or for electrical gadgets. Once again, there are two broad classification of liquid dielectrics is organic and inorganic. In organic, you have natural source and you have also synthetic source. We learn about it. Natural source, which is used more widely. In fact, synthetic organic materials have also found a lot of application, although it is not very friendly. In some countries, the synthetic materials are not allowed at all. We'll come to it. Among the natural organic materials are basically the petroleum products, which are obtained from petroleum distillation, and also products, which are, you can say, edible oils are agro products. May not be every agro product is edible, but agro products, one of the type is vegetable oil. Then the petroleum products, let's talk first about it, is the mineral oils and other hydrocarbon based insulating materials. For example, Vaseline, asphalt, bitumen. They may not be used very widely, but they can be applied for as an insulating materials also. So uh, uh, mineral oil among the petroleum product is very widely used for transformer. Practically in all transformer, the mineral oil may be of different quality are being used. Mineral oils are also being used for the power cables. It has been used for power cables. Mineral oils are used for uh, filling the bushing with oil. Mineral oils have also been used for circuit breakers, low voltage circuit breakers. Then mineral oils have been used for power cables, etc. So it's a vast use actually of mineral oil, petroleum product. In That's a maximum application of mineral oil is there in power systems. Yeah, among the agro products, vegetable oils, for example, number of vegetable oils have been investigated. But the problem with vegetables oils is over the time they degenerate very fast. and there is solid deposition at the bottom of the oil, which is not desirable. So, for example, rapeseed oil, linseed oil, castor oil uh, have been used. Among them, castor oil has found a lot of application because it has got a very high dielectric relative permittivity, you can say. Epsilon R, it has got very high epsilon R, the castor oil. So when castor oil is used in case of power capacitors, it increases the capacitance because of the high permittivity, relative permittivity. So castor oil has found a lot of applications. Then wax is also a agro product, a natural organic agro product. The wax, resins, and wood oils. Wood oil, for example, the pine oil, wax, as I mentioned, wax-based impregnating compounds are used. Resins are very widely used in the power system as thin insulation or for providing filling or filler as a filler material or providing thin insulation to the wires. The resin is very then you have, for example, turpentine oil. That is also an agro product used widely in case of some solid insulation to be provided on the conductors. Yeah, then the next among the organic is not natural, synthetic oils have been produced widely in the world. As we read it here, the substitute of hydrocarbons and halogen-free synthetic liquids. For example, the substitutes of hydrocarbons are chlorinated diphenyls, di and tri and terra, or even penta chlorodiphenyls. For example, Sovol in Russia, Pyranol in USA, clophane and orophane in Germany. They are very widely used, but they are not human friendly. And that is why in some countries these are not allowed even. On the contrary, the halogen-free synthetic liquids, that is polyisobutane and dodecy ibenzole and silicon polycondensate, which is known as commonly silicon oil, they are safer. So halogen-free synthetic liquids are safer as compared to the substitute for hydrocarbons like chlorinated diphenyls. So I know some countries where chlorinated diphenyls are banned, but we all know very well that silicon oil, although a little costly, is a very good insulating liquid, and it is very widely being used for insulation purposes. Among the inorganic materials, for example, one of the very common one you would think is the highly purified water, but water is not used as a dielectric. For some experimental purpose, it may be triple distilled water is insulating, but the uh, uh, formation of charged particles within water render it not a good insulating material. Liquid nitrogen, nitrogen under very high pressure, liquid helium, liquid SF6 gas have also been tried for application. Among them, liquid nitrogen has found some application in cryogenic apparatus applications, you can say. Cryogenic applications where the temperature is very, very low, so that a conductor uh, 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 offers almost nil resistance. So in the cryogenic apparatus techniques, liquid nitrogen not only brings down the temperature, it also acts like a insulating material. So that is very that has found some application. The liquid nitrogen has found some applications. We have not. I don't have here a slide, but one more thing I would like to apprise you about is we do classify two types of liquid uh, and solid materials. One, polar material. What do you mean by polar material? And another, non-polar materials. You can read about in the reference, but I'll describe it here. The polar materials are those which have permanent inbuilt dipoles. Dipoles, you can imagine a pole, a positive polarity molecule, or positive polarity charge, you can say, or the particles, and the negative polarity particles. For a single polarity particle cluster forms a dipole. So polar material have permanent dipoles even when you are not applying any electric field on it. Whereas the non-polar materials do not have frozen, you can say frozen dipoles. Dipoles may be formed on the application of electric field, but when you withdraw the electric field, the potential, the dipoles are not there permanently. So that is basic difference between the polar and non-polar materials. For example, asymmetric in asymmetry in molecular structure. Permanent dipoles means that they have a asymmetry in molecular structure. That is, positive and negative charge centers are formed. And the polar materials, for example, have got very high permittivity, relative permittivity. One of the typical example of polar material is water, and it has a permittivity of the order of 80, is a very, very high number of relative permittivity of water. And the materials which are used for electrical insulation purpose are non-polar materials. The one described above here in this slide, you see so many materials. They are non-polar materials used for electrical insulation purpose. Yeah, uh, we can talk a few minutes more. Uh, let's come to the properties of insulating materials, the dielectric properties of insulating materials. We will talk today and even in the next lecture the dielectric properties of insulating materials. You can, I did talk about it, but you can imagine the conductors have got very low resistance. We do not want uh, too much of I square R loss. So R should be less because in power systems we have to pass a lot of current I over the conductors. But I also talked about the insulating materials as dielectrics. Dielectrics means dielectric, which does not allow passage of electric current. It does allow some passage, which is very, very low because it offers very, very high resistance. When we talk about the insulation resistance of dielectric materials or the insulating materials, is the DC resistance. When you measure the resistance of the material on applying DC, direct current. So it has been systematized and mathematical equation, as you can see here. The on this figure, as you can see, this is a figure of an insulating material, uh, whether it is a solid block. It could also be a liquid in a container, offering rho insulation uh, between the two electrodes at a gap distance of d, and these two electrodes are given proper shape at the brim so that they form a uniform field between the two electrodes, and the insulating material, let be solid or liquid, put in between the two electrodes. Electrical circuit equivalent here, when you are applying a potential UDC, the insulating material, as I have also talked earlier, the foremost thing the insulating material forms, the electrical parameter, what the insulating materials form, is nothing but the capacitance formed by the insulating material. And they do offer a very high DC resistance. That is, when we take the DC resistance to be RDC, there will be a current IDC flowing through the DC resistance. So rho insulation, that is the parameter insulation resistance of a dielectric, is represented by the DC resistance offered by the insulating material, and rho DC is given by 1 upon kappa DC, and rho DC has got omega and meters, ohm meters, you can say. Yeah. In ohm meters, the units, and kappa is the DC conductivity, and the resistivity, rho insulation resistivity is the inverse of conductivity, and the resistivity has got a unit of um, ohm meter. And considering a direct voltage application, as you can see on the diagram, across the two uniform field electrodes separated by a block of insulating material having an area of A and length D, So RDC is equal to rho insulation D by A, and that is how IDC works out to be U by RDC. So it is U into A. U is the potential, A is the area, and rho is specific insulation resistance. Uh, um, Sorry, yeah, you can say specific insulation resistance also into D. So the uh, in uniform field, we have also learned that E is equal to U by D when you put E instead of U by D. So IDC, the current, DC current works out to be kappa DC into area A into the electric field E. So that is how you derive. Yeah, the specific conductivity uh, kappa DC, the specific conductivity of low density polyethylene measured by the scientist Krohn with increasing field intensity and different temperatures is shown in this measured characteristic, and it can be observed that the specific conductivity kappa DC increases with increasing temperature as well as increasing intensity of electric field. This is the electric field. When you are increasing the electric field, the kappa DC is increasing, and which is a function of the temperature of the polyethylene material. As you can see, when the temperature is low, 50 degrees centigrade, the conductivity is lower. And as the temperature of the dielectric of the polyethylene increases, the conductivity, that means the current passing through the insulating material, solid insulating material in this case, increases considerably. So specific DC conductivity kappa DC of low density polyethylene with respect to increasing field intensity at different temperature. So the conductivity of the what we learn from this characteristic, measurement of this characteristic, is that the conductivity of the insulating material is dependent upon the temperature and the application of potential or electric field. The uh, the measure of conductivity is in Siemens per centimeter, and the value of Siemens per centimeter, S by centimeter, as you can see it here, is of the order of varying from 10 to the power of uh, minus 19 to 10 to the power of minus 13. The minus 13 is more conductivity than minus 19 here. Yeah, another interesting characteristic, this is a schematic uh, shown here in this diagram of the kappa DC, that is the variation of kappa DC with respect to the time of application of the direct voltage. This is the time in seconds, beginning with 10 to the power of minus 3 to 10 to the power of 7 in logarithmic scale. The time is given, and the conductivity kappa DC is in Siemens per meter has been taken to be here. When you in such a case, the DC conductivity, which uh, is very high at the instant of the application of the voltage, that is in this region. Sorry. Yeah, the DC conductivity in the region A. Conductivity is very high, as you see here, of this order. Conductivity is very high. DC conductivity, as soon as you apply the voltage and you measure the conductivity is very high initially. This is very high at the instant of the application of the voltage, region A. It is determined by the orientation of dipoles present in the dielectric initially. The dipoles present, they orient themselves towards certain locations. So the DC conductivity is dependent upon the orientation of the dipoles. In the region B, the movement of free charge carriers in the material under the influence of applied electric field determine the conduction. In the region B, as you can see here, what determines the conductivity? It is the movement of free charge carriers in the material determine the conductivity, the conduction current, you can say. The magnitude of conductivity in the region also represents the AC power frequency conductivity, kappa AC, you can say. So this is plotted, the schematic is plotted with respect to when you apply DC, but this flat region of B is when you would measure when you apply an AC potential, AC voltage. In the region C, in this figure, the phenomenon of development of space charge in the front of the electrodes takes place. Over the time, when the charged particles orient themselves, they accumulate at the electrodes, and a space charge of that means charged particles of particular polarity assemble at one place, of opposite polarity at other place. So in the region C, the conduction is determined by the phenomenon of the development of space charge in front of the electrodes. And when you let the voltage be applied for considerable long time, the flow of steady ion current due to dissociation is depicted by the region D. So the flow of, see in this case of schematic conductivity of insulating oils, as you can see, in the oils, it is not the electron movement of electrons which determines the current. It is the movement of ions determines the conductive current. So is the case also in solid dielectrics. So the flow of steady ion current due to dissociation is depicted in region D, achieved after a considerable time of application of the voltage. So the steady state conductive current, you can say, would flow after a considerable time to the order of 10 to the power of 5 seconds. That means minutes, of the order of few minutes, a continuous dissipation of current, or the flow of steady ion current would determine the conduction. So this is how the conduction in solids and liquids take place. So I think we can break here, and we will discuss in the next lecture more about the properties of the dielectric. We'll talk about it. Okay, thank you very much for today.